The results of Florida's primary are in, and here to make sense of them is Kevin Griffith, the vice chair of the Sarasota County Democratic Party, Joe Gruters, the chairman of the Sarasota County Republican Party, and Mitch Perry of FloridaPolitics.com. And before we start, Joe, we have to congratulate you for your primary win yesterday in the Florida House Republican race. It was probably not as easy as you had hoped it would be.
Well, I'm ecstatic. You know, obviously, I'm very thankful to the voters for allowing me the chance to be the nominee in November on the Republican side. You know, as the party chairman, I've probably had hundreds of people come into my office and tell me they want to run for office, and I always lead off with, there's never an easy race, you know, so don't think you're going to be able to walk into it. And I got the, you know, I got that exact essentially set up right back to me, because who knew I was only going to win by 300 votes? I mean, it was a real seesaw battle. Steve ran a great race. I got to congratulate him. He did. He's a great candidate, good conservative.
There's a lot of stuff for us to talk about, and maybe this is a conversation for another day, but we can't talk about the impact of what they call dark money on this race, because a lot of the times, you know, dark money has been in a number of school board races, other races around here. You were victimized by some of this dark money from donors that we do not know about, and it nearly cost you.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, what I want to know is, I just want to know who was behind it. Who spent the $100,000 tearing me down over the last 10 days? It's really unfortunate that this shell game exists out there, and everybody says, oh, you're the chairman of the Republican Party, you know, you guys play this dark money all the time. Well, we don't. The Republican Party doesn't engage in this dark money. Certain members of our party may engage in it, but certainly as chairman, I believe in an open and transparent system. And I will tell you that I'm much more motivated now to go to Tallahassee to do. I don't want to restrict people's ability for
public
First
financing
Amendment, right?
of campaigns, right?
Yes, all I want is I want an open and transparent system. So if you want to raise $100,000 from Walmart and you want to be Mr. Walmart, go ahead.
Well, but
people should know.
We could also go for public financing of these races, so everybody has a fair share.
I'm glad Joe's finally seen the light, and his you know, stance that the Democrats have been pushing for a long time and considered outsiders, and now turned on him, and it looks like he's going to be an advocate there.
All right, well, let's talk about the U.S. Senate race. Carlos Baruf, the local manatee developer, was lost badly to Marco Rubio. That race was really upended when Rubio decided to jump back into it. So no surprise there. A lot of the shine has come off of the Democrats' nominee, Patrick Murphy, because there were some stories emanating from South Florida about his degrees from college, his business experience. So many people believe he is a flawed candidate going up against an incumbent. Kevin, this is an uphill battle, isn't it?
I got to push back against that. You know, this attack against Patrick Murphy is premised on a couple of them, but let's talk about the university. They're saying that, you know, his degree, it's not that his degree, he said he studied accounting and finance, and it was some sort of combination. His CPA, he is a CPA. It was
not in this state.
In Colorado. So it's still a credential. I mean, ultimately, it's about the issues that he's going to advocate for. He is a two-term congressman. He defeated Allen West. He's a very qualified guy. He is young. He's in his early 30s or mid-30s, and he does have an uphill climb against Marco Rubio. But I think this could be the year.
He came out to a poor start today, though, I'll say, because Marco Rubio came out and announced he wants 6 debates with Murphy. Murphy famously did not debate his Democratic opponents this summer. And when Murphy came back and said he only wants 1 debate, and he says he called it a gimmick. I don't really get where he's coming from there. It seems like he's intimidated to debate Marco Rubio, like he was somehow found an excuse to debate Alan Grayson. So I would say, though, I think these are both flawed candidates, actually. Marco Rubio had a remarkably easy run against Carlos Baruf, and that's too bad, because I think if anybody deserved to get hard scrutiny against him, it was Marco Rubio, a guy who never wanted to run this race, you know, as we heard the last year.
So where are we set up here? Because, you know, Marco Rubio, the knock against him, especially during the presidential primary, is that he had his eyes on the White House for the last 6 years, and he did not take care of business here at home. People have not forgotten that. So Do the Democrats have any?
I do
any
think they have a
here?
chance, though. Absolutely. I mean, I don't think Murphy blew anybody away during this primary run. However, the Democrats are going to put a lot of money in this race. The Democrats desperately want to win back the Senate, and they looked at before Rubio got in. They thought for sure they were going to get the seat. Now it's a lot harder. But Murphy in polls is not that far away, like 5 points, 4 points, depending, of course, what happens at the top of the ticket. And a lot of money coming in, and there'll be money from the Republicans, no doubt, too. It'll be a big war there. But I think that Murphy has a chance because now that the general public's going to get a chance to weigh in on Marco Rubio, it won't be this coronation like the Republicans did last night with him.
And people no longer just vote down ballot. So you can't assume that whoever carries Florida in the presidential race will extend to another statewide race like the U.S. Senate race. But still, Joe, in the presidential year, you have maximum Democratic turnout for voters. So this is by no means an easy go for Marco Rubio.
No, but I think that Marco Rubio's record overall plays well for him in a re-election here in Florida. I think that he has, when he was first elected, he was like the Tea Party candidate. But once he went to D.C., he became much more of a practical type Republican. And he actually was a champion of a lot of things that are important to Floridians. And I think that will carry the day at the end of the day. I think that he reflects our state. I think he was overall a good senator when he wasn't running for president of the United States. But I think he'll go back there, and I think he'll represent our state very well.
And Kevin, I'll give you the last word on that.
Well, I just think that perhaps the irony there is that someone's going to have to go vote for Trump and then vote for Rubio on the Republican side when they had a primary and they had to pick one or the other. And I think that favors Patrick Murphy.
And they help. What I think is, I think Trump and Rubio help each other. This is, and I've said this all along, because they both appeal to different segments of the Republican base. And if they all come out, the key is get out the vote. And it's all about turnout. They both win.
Rubio could be helping out Trump, actually.
We have to just
right.
take one break here. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll have more with our roundtable in just a minute. Welcome back to the new hour-long ABC 7 at 7. We are discussing the results of yesterday's primary with our roundtable. Kevin Griffith is the vice chair of the Sarasota County Democratic Party. Joe Gruder is the chairman of the Sarasota County Republican Party. And Mitch Perry of FloridaPolitics.com. The hottest local race, the state Senate race. Mitch, you've been writing about this. Now Greg Steube against Frank Alcock, a political science professor and also ABC 7's political analyst. And this is the matchup that he hoped for. His thinking is a moderate Democrat against a very conservative Republican is something to really campaign on. If it was Nora Patterson or Ray Pilon, who is more moderate, the distinctions would not be different. Kevin, what are your hopes for that race?
Well, my hopes are that Frank Alcock wins, and I think this is the matchup he wanted. And I just think depending on some variables, but I do think that the statewide party will come in at the end for Frank.
So far, they have not.
They have not, but I think now that this is the matchup, I think there'll be some polling done. And I really think on the issues, Frank Alcock is going to be able to move some independents and some maybe the Republicans who can be persuaded.
But here is the interesting question. Even when you look at some of the issues, I mean, when you talk about gun issues in Florida, there is no one more closely associated with expanding gun rights than Greg Steube. And Frank Alcock believes that is an issue that he could appeal to moderate voters but Republican voters chose the most conservative Republican candidate, Joe.
Well, I think Frank Alcock is a great guy, very reasonable. It seems like he'd be a good matchup against Greg. But don't count Greg Steube out. I mean, the numbers are on our side, number one, but Greg Steube is a winner. I mean, the fact that he was able to come out of a Manatee County House District and win a Sarasota County Senate District against three well-known, well-liked political figures in Sarasota. Greg Steube is probably one of the most relentless campaigners that I've seen out on the campaign trail. Greg Steube is going to win this seat big because he's a political animal, and I think that he'll have the resources on his side.
Well, I think that he is a formidable candidate. He should be the favorite going into this. But I think that Alcock, he's doing this bike tour this weekend, right? And he's appealing to centrists and moderates. He's inviting people from all parties to come. And he's already starting from that part of not trying to be partisan. And on the gun issues, I think Frank is right. I think we don't know it because Tallahassee is show that Floridians, except for maybe the stand your ground, which they do support, but these other basic background check laws and other things like that, the polls are very much for more gun control than we get in Tallahassee. I think Alcock thinks that is an issue that he can be effective on down here in this county.
And Alan, can I just make two other points? The first one is that, last night, ironically, 70% of the Republicans voted against Greg Steube. And secondly, Frank Alcock got more votes total. If you look at the total vote total between the two, I mean, it's something to move forward with.
Well, there was again 2 people in one race and 5 in another.
But also, I guess going to that was a 4-way race, and it did get a little bit nasty. And some people get mailers and watch ads and they turn them off. Well, we probably watch them and dissect them. And I remember the one of Greg Steube that I thought was the hardest attack by anyone was him in the legislature with the kind of kicked back and his hands behind his head, and it said, he went to Tallahassee, got a job with a law firm, and then passed legislation for that law firm that benefited that law firm that was written by that law firm. So he's not clean hands. I think it could be a race.
You know why people like Greg Steube? It's because he actually goes and tries to get stuff done. He doesn't go up to when he went up to Tallahassee.
Well, when it comes to the gun issue, it's not exactly the stuff that people wanted to get
on all
done.
issues, though. But here's the deal: people want people that are going to go and move the needle. People don't want somebody that you elect and you're going to all of a sudden vote with the team all the time. Greg Steube is a champion of conservative causes. He's been an incredible legislator. The guy is probably the best campaigner in the entire area, Republican or Democrat. He'll win this race.
I want to talk about another race, and that is the State House race featuring Ed James III and Alex Miller. Ed James, for a first-time candidate, has raised an incredible amount of money over the last year. Alex Miller, she's a successful businesswoman, and she was frankly called out about her TV commercial last week, where some discussion about what did she mean and in her commercial when she says she is one of us, and people were raising the question, was that was she talking about race? And she denied that, but you could see the campaign that is going to evolve there.
And she said that she's going to do a different ad now going to the general elections.
And it was an oversight.
And that she basically said, I wasn't responsible for, my campaign people did this. So she was put on the defense about that. So that's a nice part for Ed James to begin this general election campaign on. I'm not so familiar with the dynamics. I think James is a strong candidate down here. I think I'm looking forward to watch this race.
But Kevin, James, as we said, has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for this race, but the polling that I am aware of shows that his name recognition is still extremely low. So he may have all the money in the world, but you also have a very short period of time to get yourself well known.
Luckily, he is a very hard worker, and he's going to get out there and also knock on doors. He does have a lot of money to do catch up. That's one of the issues with primaries. I mean, some people don't like primaries. I'm sure Joe didn't necessarily love his primary. But you get your name out there, and if you have a competitive general, that is an advantage for his opponent. I think he has enough money that he's going to be able to go on TV. He's also going to be able to do the ground game. And ultimately, Ed James is going to come out on top.
Joe, I know who you're rooting for, but I do know that you respect how much money that Ed James has raised.
I do, but if you look at his expenditures, he hasn't had a race, and I think he's spent $60,000 or $70,000 on almost nothing. You look at his report, 7-Eleven gas, food, and it costs money to run a campaign. I'm not dogging him for whatever he spends his money on. But here's what Alex Miller has going for her. She's articulate. She's a successful businesswoman. She served on the hospital board already as an elected official. She has, in terms of when we just say, who do we want as our candidate for whatever seat? She's almost the perfect candidate. She is unbelievable. She's going to, and this is a tough one for Ed to win. The numbers are way in Alex's favor. Ed doesn't have a chance.
So what are the dynamics of this district? In terms of, what type of voters are out there in this particular district?
I think it's somewhat of a center-right district. I think that if you have the wrong type of candidate on our side, it could be a potentially tough race for us to hold. But I think Alex Miller is the perfect candidate. I think that with her record of success, like I said, as a mother, as a small business owner, as a public official, she's had so many successes here in Sarasota. I personally served on the Humane Society board with her, and it was amazing to see her in action and see what she's willing to do for our community and to really see her at work. I mean, she's another champion. And I think she'll go up to Tallahassee and do amazing things. And what's amazing is how articulate she is.
Kevin, a quick answer, because there's one more issue I want to get to.
Well, I would just say her record on the hospital board, the hospital board has slowly over time tried to take steps toward privatization. Privatization of Sarasota Memorial Hospital certainly isn't very popular amongst the people in the northern part of Sarasota. And, one of us, a millionaire is not really one of us.
There's one other issue I want to get to, and that is the quality of the political ads that we're seeing, because obviously, as Alex Miller said, that what was in that commercial was an oversight. Lord knows, I have seen some pretty bad political advertising over the last couple of weeks. There was one candidate who is running for the state representative in Hillsborough County, who is a well-known legislator, and she is running ads saying that she did something for puppies.
Dana Young, right, who's running for state senate District
come
18.
on.
Yeah, it's like very wholesome, and it doesn't, and Dana Young's a very, hard Republican conservative, and that's something that all people can get behind, puppies, right? So it's going to be up to her Democratic opponent, Bob Busing, to say that Dana Young's done more than just pass legislation that helps out dogs.
And you have other candidates for the Florida House or the Florida Senate saying that they will fix illegal immigration.
Well, you can. I mean, there's things you could do as a member of the Florida House to curb illegal immigration. You could we could ban sanctuary cities here in Florida. We can make sure that we put Americans first. We don't give special breaks to illegal aliens that are here.
Well, but you're referring to Jackie Toledo, who just won last night the House District 60 race in Tampa.
There have also been candidates in Sarasota and Manatee running.
Well, Jackie Toledo's trying to repeal 2 laws that the Republican legislature and Governor Scott passed 2 years ago, which is give in-state tuition to undocumented immigrants and also give benefits for undocumented attorneys to practice the law. That went all the way up to the Florida Supreme Court. So, I mean, she's the only one I know even really advocating for that. So that's kind of a stretch that she's going to do that if she gets go over Rick Scott and
Kevin,
pass
I'll give you the last word.
Well, I think on immigration with Donald Trump at the top, the Democrats are going to be in a strong position on that case. Okay,
we're going to leave it there. Welcome back. We are discussing the primary with our roundtable. Gentlemen, final thoughts. The matchups are set for the November election. I want to talk about the congressional races again to see if there are any possibilities for any surprises around here. The conventional wisdom is that Vern Buchanan has been in office for about 10 years. Jan Schneider has gone after him, I would say, a couple of times. But a lot of people out there would be wondering, in a presidential year where Hillary Clinton still does have a lead in Florida, why wouldn't a Democrat have a chance in a race like that, Mitch?
Well, because of the way the districts are set up, basically, it's very hard for...
This is a new district, though. It extends into Hillsborough County substantially.
Well, I would defer that to my friends who live down here, because I don't see Jan Schneider defeating Vern Buchanan. But
no, the percentage of the part of the district that Vern lost, really southern Sarasota and a little bit of Charlotte, he gained Hillsborough County, eastern Hillsborough. It was really Republican area for Republican area. So the numbers aren't there for Jan to win. Jan doesn't have the resources to win. She's an incredibly nice person. But what Vern Buchanan has done is he's really built a huge wall around him in terms of, I don't think any candidate can come in and take on Vern because of the job that he's done for our community. He's generally well liked amongst Republicans, independents, and some conservative Democrats. Nobody's going to take him out. He's going to be our congressman for as long as he wants to be.
Kevin, this was a seat that was targeted in the past.
It has been in the past, and I will say one benefit to Janice. One, she's run before, and that's always a positive. Two, she does have name recognition, so that money that a new candidate might need to raise their name recognition, she doesn't have to spend.
On the other hand, just up the road in Pinellas County, that congressional district has been represented by a Republican for decades, and now former Governor Charlie Crist seems to be on the precipice, at least, of possibly overturning that and defeating an incumbent, David Jolly.
He's the favorite, Alan, for sure, because the district is one of the 8 that was redistricted by the Supreme Court. They demanded it. They said the districts were unconstitutionally drawn up. But David Jolly is formidable, I still say. At one point he thought, I couldn't win this district. He ran for Senate. Then when Marco Rubio came in, he said, I'm going to run back for it. But he's been a very strong congressman for the last 2 years, and he's not very partisan. I mean, I think that, Pinellas County has a reputation of being very moderate. I think it's going to be a very close race.
Joe, we only have a couple of seconds left, but I'll give you the last word.
Well, I'll say Charlie Crist is what's wrong with politics, why people hate politicians. And David Jolly, here's a guy who stands true to what he believes in and his principles, you know exactly where he's going to be. That's why Jolly
It's a
wins.
Democratic-leaning district at this
Yes,
point.
but Jolly has proven himself to be another winner, and he's a thorn in the Democrat sides.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I want to thank all our guests for being here. Kevin Griffith, Joe Gruters, Mitch Perry, thank you all for being here.